just introduce you, and then we'll go to it. So, hello everybody. Thank you for coming. So today we've got a talk from Thomas Richards on glitch and AI. I don't want to speak too much about it, but he's an artist based in Rochester, New York State in America, and he works with AI and analog equipment, and his work is really, really good. We're really pleased to have him here with us. And I advise you to go and have a look at his work, wherever you can find it, and over to you. I'm going to turn off my mic and my webcam now, just so.
All right, perfect, thank you. And we are recording, yes? All right. Thank you very much, Ian. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. As he mentioned, my name is Tom Richards. And I am a self-taught artist. I have no formal training. My day job is actually computer security, but I have, always a love for the arts. I started to get into explore my artistic side back in 2017 when I bought my first, DSLR camera because I was getting ready to go on a Hawaiian cruise, and I was like, I'm not going to take pictures on a cell phone and have them be all crappy. I want good pictures when I'm going to Hawaii. So that's where I started going. In 2022, I started to get involved in glitch art. First, I started with, some digital glitch art, matching with my photography, building off my photography, my black and white specifically. And then, through the months, I started to get analog equipment, rescue CRTs off of the curbs, and, have a fun time capturing and trying to figure out the analog glitching scene. My art has been exhibited locally and globally. Lucky for me, there's a gallery here called Main Street Arts. Clifton Springs isn't too far from Rochester. They got some of my pieces in their exhibition that was back in January. I have 3 pieces right now up in the Real Under, which is a goth dance club in Mexico City, Mexico. And I've also had my art exhibited locally at a Tinker Nature Park. They do a summer art series, and the curator was actually very interested in my work early on, so good champion there. On Instagram, you can find me as Distorted Reality IO. On Facebook, you can also find me as Distorted Reality, but it's .io on Facebook. The logo you see on the right with the eye, which is one of my earliest digital glitch art, which has my wife's eye, is my logo. So anywhere you see, that logo as an avatar, be confident that is my account. I have accounts on Threads and somewhere else too, but that is me. All right, so what's glitch art, right? Hopefully most people here know what glitch art is. We're producing distortions, right? You're taking a pristine image and turning it into something that is both beautiful and chaotic at the same time. The primary ways of going about that are, analog, using either analog equipment, usually analog video gear that has been manipulated in some way. Such as circuit bent, they're making connections where they're not supposed to be, or adding resistors where they're not supposed to be. Also, different photo manipulation, using, digital tools to manipulate the photo so that it creates those distortions. Data moshing, taking an image and throwing it through Audacity, a audio program to produce the distortions of the glitch. So lots of really cool ways to produce glitch art. There's no right or wrong way to do it, but it's always been fun to try to get something that is, aesthetically pleasing in all that chaos and mess. So what's AI art, right? AI art's popped up in the past year. It's really taken, a life of its own. They're using machine learning algorithms to produce images from a text prompt. So whoever the interface is, typically you type in, I want to see an image of a penguin, and it makes a penguin, or else I want to see a penguin wearing a top hat, sitting in a restaurant, and then it produces a picture of a penguin wearing a top hat in a restaurant. These systems, try to emulate neurons that are in our brain that allow the computers to think, more or less. These systems are trained on images, and that's where a lot of the the controversy comes from with them. Artists are saying that their work has been stolen and used unfairly for copyright, but the systems do exist. None of them have been shut down or been told to stop right now, even with court cases going on. So, you can train these on images, and that's how it knows what a penguin is. Early models use generative adversarial networks called GANs, but the newest AI system use diffusion models, and we'll give a quick overview of what a diffusion model is here in a minute. But first, if you remember this image or images that looked like this that had, dog faces hallucinating all over the place, this was Deep Dream back in 2015. This was one of the first quote-unquote available AI that was using GANs. Google released this. I remember playing around with it just a little bit to see what images I could get out of it, but I wasn't really big into art back then. But these were getting popular, right? Really trippy, surrealist, the Mona Lisa with some, crazy dog faces going on, right? But now with diffusion models take it in a different step. So when you train the model on an image, what the model does is actually adds a whole bunch of noise. So what's going on in the background is you take this original image and then it starts to add noise to it, and it destroys the image as it gets trained. So unlike GANs, diffusion models don't store the actual image in their data set. They store a whole bunch of noise. Now, when you type in, so say, for example, a perfect photo of a food setup, right? It starts with a noised image, and then it removes the noise to try to produce the image that you're looking for. And that's where the different pieces of the image come from, right? The variations of the image come from. Now you might get a carrot that all of a sudden has taken the full size of the picture, or you have some vegetables that weren't going to be there because the AI, the ML, knows that there's supposed to be vegetables there. Something is supposed to be there, and it does its best to kind of remember what they are and reproduce that as best it can. So that's how the variations get introduced. So you can see on the bottom slide here how those variations, they're slightly different from each other. We even have, different things on their hands. There's different vegetables on the table. The image on what appears to be an iPad is different, right? So that's what makes some of these pretty unique. Three of the more popular text-to-image generators, at least the ones that I have been access to and have really taken off in the marketplace. One is Midjourney. They released their private beta in May of 2022. DALL-E 2, who is run by OpenAI, that started to gain a bit of popularity in June. I got early access to that, I think in June or July of 2022. And then also Stable Diffusion. So Stable Diffusion, the biggest difference between it and the rest of them is it is open source, and we're going to dive a bit more into Stable later. So Midjourney, like I said, I started on Midjourney around May of 2022, back when they only had V2 of its algorithm. Looking back just a year, the images it produced, were not really good, right? There were a lot of distortions, not always aesthetically pleasing, not always exactly what it was supposed to be. Now they're on version 5 of their algorithm, which is some of their most realistic stuff they've done so far. The two images we have down below, I just ran sample prompts, one on the V2, one on the V5, just saying acid sharks, right? So you can see in V2, is that even a shark? I guess it has a mouth and a fin, but it's not quite as precise as you'd want, where V5, acid sharks, those look more like sharks, like you're on acid. Very hallucination colors, vibrant colors and stuff. It's got two heads. I could have refined the prompt a bit more to try to get an actual shark, that was fluorescent in some fashion. But for this demo, I just wanted to show, how far they've come in their algorithm just in a short period of time. DALL-E, I got access. Oh, July, it looks like. I got access to DALL-E in July. It was one of the first ones that was photorealistic. So a lot of the challenges with Midjourney is it could not produce photorealism until about V4 of their algorithm, and also their test algorithms, which were actually just Stable Diffusion underneath, because Stable Diffusion was able to produce photorealistic pretty early on too. This is one of my first ones that I produced. My wife suggested, a shark and a banana. So it looks like a shark and a banana. DALL-E, when I was experimenting with it, is very literal. When you want a shark with a banana nose, it produces a shark and there's a banana by its nose. It doesn't interpret it in an artistic way, different from Midjourney, where Midjourney actually tries to produce something that evokes the meaning of what you're saying. One other example, I don't have a slide on it, but I tested prompts. I did a blog on it. If you find my socials and find my link tree and go to my blog, I gave an example of it where, you say the word empty, right? So you type empty into DALL-E and empty into Midjourney. What DALL-E gives you is a cup that has nothing in it on its side. It's empty. But Midjourney would produce essentially a void, a very dark surrealist image that captured the feeling of empty. Anyway, I digress. Next is Stable Diffusion. So Stable Diffusion was released in August. First, it was released on Discord, but then later they allowed the source code to be downloaded. The driving force behind it was some controversy in the community where Midjourney and DALL-E 2 were a bit restrictive because they had censorship. They realized that these tools shouldn't be used to show celebrities being murdered or, pornography in any of its form, and different gore and, things that just weren't in good taste. So there were filters placed on Midjourney and DALL-E to make sure the technology was used responsibly. The guys who made Stable Diffusion said, F that, we are going to let people do whatever they want and release this stuff as open source. So a lot of the other newer AI systems that popped up after August are actually running stable under the hood because that was open source and available to them. And the other benefit is with it being released, you can run it locally. Now you need a pretty strong GPU, but it is able to run locally, and I'll get into a demo here in a little bit. So the concept of intentional versus unintentional glitches. So looking back at the image that I showed of Midjourney of the acid shark, right, that produced something that was truly bizarre and weird. It's not quite a shark. It's also not quite, acid, but it's super weird. So what grabbed my attention early to AI art and what got me into it was Rob Sheridan's Volstov research. And I think the Twitter account or the X account, whatever you want to call that, is still active. And that's where Rob was able to, use his digital skills to produce different sets of images and combine them and tell a compelling story. And when you get into that horror and creepy stuff, the distortions, the multiple fingers, just it doesn't quite look like a shark, but it could still be scary when used in a different fashion, come into play. But these weren't intentional, right? We weren't intentionally drawing the shark that had only a mouth and a fin and looked like it snorted blob. It was more of a byproduct of the limitation of the technology. It couldn't produce a real image of a shark, and it tried its best to produce an image of a shark. And that's where it gets into a little bit different, right? And everyone always, this was a big thing for a while, how AI, couldn't produce ands. The meme is always a good one. AI will make designers obsolete, and AI accepting the job, and you can just see how horrible they were at drawing human hands. I had images where people would have extra arms and legs and fingers and toes where they shouldn't be because the system knows there should be fingers and toes there, and it's just not quite sure where to put it. So this is another one of those unintentional byproduct or glitches that came out of the AI systems. So what about trying to do intentional glitching, right? Like I specifically want a certain kind of distortion or manipulation in the image to capture a sort of aesthetic, either of analog or digital glitching. I had various success on this depending upon the platform, messing around with different, combinations of word prompting, to try to capture CRT or VHS scan lines, data moshing, or, distortions, yielded different results on different platforms. Midjourney has a really hard time producing analog glitches. It can kind of do some decent stuff with digital glitches, but it doesn't quite capture the whole manipulation, right? So this is a sample prompt of a man walking down the street, and then I used the descriptive keywords of glitch, scan lines, digital distortions, and data mosh. And the background of the man looks sort of glitchy, almost, cyberpunk-esque going on, but it's not in a true distortion fashion. And this was run on V5. V4 and V3 still didn't capture it too well, although I did get some kind of aesthetically pleasing stuff out of V3 when you would just type in random stuff to the keyboard. But DALL-E actually did a pretty good job of capturing glitching. So for as literal as DALL-E is, how I explained earlier, how you give say empty and it gives you a cup that is empty, it did a pretty good job of giving some aesthetically pleasing glitch using keywords like synthwave and glitchcore and data mosh and chromatic aberration. It produced, these images that had some nicely stylized glitch art on it. These were run really early on DALL-E's system. I think I did these in July or August of last year, so these images are about a year old. I haven't played too much with DALL-E recently, just because it's just not part of the workflow. It is it costs per run. So unlike Midjourney, where I have a monthly subscription to it, I pay per image on DALL-E. So I only use it when I have a specific need for DALL-E. But these images are still produced pretty well. Now, Stable Diffusion, the stock SD model really didn't do any better than Midjourney. This was another image I tried to do like data moshing and glitching, and there's some distortions. It has its own, aesthetic to it. I didn't find them very pleasing, but, further tweaking of the prompt might be able to get something more pleasing to you, or if you find this pleasing, have at it. Similar prompts were used like I did with Midjourney, saying glitchcore or data mosh and, digital distortions. And this is what it produced. So where to go now, right? Like, all right, we have this ability to produce, any image I want. Is it going to give me what I want? So of the three, like I said, DALL-E is really the only one that does it well. I mentioned the cost, but also we're restrictive on aspect ratio. So with Midjourney and Stable Diffusion, I can specify a different aspect ratio. I'm not always going to get a 1:1 square. I can ask for a 16:9 or a 5:4 or a 7:5. Whatever the ratio I want for the image to get different aspect ratios. But DALL-E's pretty limited in that. They do have outpainting now where you can expand a couple things, but when you type something in, you're really limited to just, the square. But remember how I mentioned that Stable Diffusion is open source? So the beauty of this is Stable allows you to train your own model. So they have produced, their own models on their own training sets that you can use and load into the engine, essentially, to generate the images. But you have the ability to train your own. So that's where I started with this talk, right? Like I want to show, the cool thing of training your own image and data sets, and here's how you do it. And after a bunch of tutorials that seemed like the process was incredibly complex, I found this online service called Dreambook.ai that allows you, for at least a free trial, and actually the rest of actually paying for it isn't that expensive, to train your own models. So you can upload your own images, give them whatever tags you want, and then they incorporate them into Stable's model that you're able to download and then run locally. So to prepare the images, I selected, they say to do up to 50. I don't know if that's just a limitation on the free one or if that would have changed if I started paying, but I stuck with the free. So I selected, 44 of these images that are my pieces throughout, the past year to sort of capture what an analog glitch art is, because these systems just were not producing them in any fashion that was like an analog glitch art you would like. So I took them, uploaded them, and got my own model. So it was pretty straightforward. There was a tutorial I used. If you want the tutorial, I can find it and shoot it to you later. Just message me on one of the platforms that I'm on. I did include the link here. So I tagged all the images in the style of glitch. It took, I think, only like 10 or 15 minutes to generate the model. Then I had to download it. It is a pretty sizable download. It was like a 4 gigabyte download I had to do to load and install it locally. And then I gave it a go. And surprisingly, it did what I wanted it to do. It produced, some nice, rich analog distortions here. The one on the left is, I forget what that prompt was, but the one in the middle is, a marble statue of a Roman or Greek god in the style of glitch, and it put, these cool, almost, vaporwave, background to it. And the one all the way on the right is an analog glitch of, I think, the devil. I did that of. So the results, were pretty good here on what the engine can do. So now I'm going to switch over to a live demo. All right. Let's see what. No, it's Dreambook, Ian. Dreambook.ai is the one that it does. Let me just dream. No, it is Dreamlook. You're right. Dreamlook AI. Dreamlook. You are right. All right. Let me get my screen shared here. Window. We are going to do. All right. Is everyone able to see my screen? If someone could come off mute and just confirm they can see the stable interface here.
Yeah,
perfect.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, so these are some that I ran just before the talk here that I was making sure we're working, right? So here's another marble statue of, a Greek god. Let's say a photograph of in the style of glitch. So as long as I have in the style of glitch at the end or in any part of the prompt that I'm typing in, it knows to use those subsets of images that I uploaded. And what's nice is building it on top of Stable's model is it already had stuff there, right? So I don't have to tell it what a jellyfish is. It's able to still draw a jellyfish in some pretty convincing manner here. It's actually looking pretty cool. I will flip back and forth between the chat, so if anyone wants to throw any prompts in here, I am more than happy to run them through my model. If anyone has any ideas or thoughts they want to see, we can do them sort of in real time here. One of the other ones I like to do is... see how this one goes. I haven't done a lot of cyberpunk ones on this stable model yet, so I'm not sure how it's going to look when it starts to fire here. This one looks good. This one looks like a, let's see, can I make it any bigger? There we go. This has got some, some CRT vibes got going on here. Looks like a city trying to come up on some, Blade Runner cam, right? That one looks pretty cool. That one looks pretty cool. Let me flick back. All right. I'm going to copy and paste exactly what you typed in, V. Let's see what. Oh, I see there's some typos there, but that's all right. I don't know if Snelly is supposed to be properly typed or not. I think that's the most that looks like a bus. Sometimes you got to run it a couple of times, and with stable diffusion, there's different sampling methods, so I was playing with those before we were getting stuff going here to see which one would produce closer to what I was looking for. These were almost too literal. Where's all my glitch stuff on this one? Okay, not going to do that model. They wouldn't type anything else. Really? Brutalist car in the style. Okay, yeah, let's do that. Let's run this one again and see what the smelly bus ends up looking like. And then I'll run your prompt in. I think I'm just getting like a bus terminal. What it's starting to produce. It's not really doing the glitch stuff anymore. Let's try. There's other nuances to AI art too. There's the concept of the seed, right? How much sampling is going to be done, so you can have it generate different things based on a seed value and how many samples. So for this, I just kept it simple, right? I'm not going to tweak too many settings, but you can really spend a lot of time, getting lost here. It looks kind of brutalist. Let's see, I'm going to up the samples a bit, and let's change the seed to like 420,666. Let's see what we get out of this.
What I can't get over is the speed of it. That's incredible.
I have a good GPU.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's become more efficient too. Like when I started, when Stable was first released in August, and I think I could download it in September. I ran an earlier version of it, and it took almost like 2 minutes for it to produce an image, and my computer would sound like it was taking off, right? Like it was just like, it's gonna take off and be all crazy. Wife is like, please stop the car. But yes, this one looks pretty good too. Uploading, changing the seed value and stuff like that. But they've got more efficient, over the past year. So now I can get, these 4 images essentially in 60 seconds, and my laptop does not sound like it's about to take off. I mean, the fans are running, I don't know if you can hear the fan off of my monitor, but
No,
it's
not
not.
at all.
I'm
And
not worried about overheating.
that's running on a laptop.
Yes, I'm on a laptop right now.
Wow. That's even more incredible.
Yep.
What?
Yeah, when I bought this computer, I wanted it really for gaming.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, I've been using my work computer for years. And I decided, no, I need my own computer now, right? Like I'm doing my glitch art. I can't have all my glitch art on my employee's laptop and all that stuff, right? So I bought my own. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna spend the money and get a system I like. I am going to get, a nice computer that I can actually play games on. So the way my lifestyle is right now, I don't have like just one spot for my computer, right? So I needed a laptop. So that's how I got into this. So I can take it wherever I go and still do all my cool stuff. So yeah, all right. With that, I'll stop sharing. I don't see any other prompts coming up here. So, thank you everyone for joining. Looks like I'm a little bit, under time here, but hopefully that's not going to be too much of a problem. I was hoping for more of an audience so that we could have gotten, some more prompt ideas. But yeah, any questions before we get to the end of the session here?
Type into the box or put your microphones on and start speaking. So I'm still amazed you're running that off a laptop. That's incredible. Like, wow. Just shows how quickly the technology has actually evolved. Technology? The models themselves. Would you say it's the technology or the models, the way they run?
It's the tech. It's the tech that's actually generating the images. It's gotten more efficient, in the past year, running on different GPUs, because you need a dedicated graphics card, right? Like I don't have an integrated Intel graphics card. The laptop I have has NVIDIA GeForce in it. I think it's 3070 is in it. Maybe a 3060. I forget which one it is, but I bought, not the best, but it was a medium sized GPU. So you need something with enough RAM to run it. So I think I have like 4 gigabytes of VRAM. So you need a lot of the VRAM. The GPU is doing all of it, but it's gotten more efficient as the code has just improved, over the past year.
Yeah. So would you say using this has changed your work? Well, obviously it has, but your approach to your work?
Yeah, so, using the AI stuff just in general has allowed me to express things that I didn't have another way to express. But it also allows me, as we were, chatting earlier, to produce images to then feed into my analog setup. So, some of the images, I forget what slide it was. Was it 17? No, it was this one. So a lot of these images, especially the ones like on the top, like this weird looking dude right here and this thing with the horns and, this demon guy, those were all produced with AI. And then using the combination, I found it to be really compelling with like dark negative space. So the core image of those, the starting images were all like marble statues. So it was marble statues, so white marble with a black background, and then putting it through my analog rig is how I got those distortions. Those it seemed to be really successful to generating those stills. There is some video that's available now. I was just playing around with that the other day to generate video as an AI. So that was. I'm sorry to spare that. See how I can feed that into the rig too, right? Let me make the video I want, and then feed that into the rig so that I'm not stuck with whatever I can find on streaming. So V just said, having a 3060 with 12 gigabytes, yeah, that'll generate a lot really fast. Stable diffusion. So I'm just running automatic 1111. Easy download, click, install, run. That's what I'm using to show this demo here, and it works out pretty well. So you could generate a lot with 12 gigabytes RAM. I only have 4, right? So you can get more images in less time.
So training the AI Stable Diffusion on your own work, do you find it has a unique signature that is your own as opposed to stuff you get off Mid-Journey or DALL-E as you were talking about before?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's why I went this, right? I couldn't get analog glitching, right? It would not capture that CRT vibe, when we were trying to get stuff going, right? How it got like this background, right? It is pixelated and it looks, if I showed, the full size of this image, it has that grainy texture to it that a CRT has that I couldn't get any other way. Either they weren't trained on it or what have you. So integrating my work into it allowed me to get what I wanted out of it.
Yeah. And do you feel that, I suppose going back to what you're saying about the controversies of AI being trained on work that's just been basically scraped from the web, do you feel that it gives the work that you make, I'm choosing my words very carefully now, more authenticity?
I'd say yes.
Even an issue? Yeah.
Yeah, because this, for some of these, it looks like almost a digital composite, right? The Roman statue one in the middle, that background, it looks like something I could have easily produced on my analog rig, right?
Yeah.
And just layering it with the statue in the front, I was very surprised when that one came out, how good just it looked aesthetically. And that does, that's my vibe, right? Like the equipment I have, how I tune the knobs and what I look for is that sort of like bent, distortion that's in there with, a lot of the bright colors popping.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was able to get a lot of stuff. I was like, hey, this looks just like my work in a way that, is generated. So.
Yeah. So do you think then that the more the technology comes down in price and the more people are able to train their own stuff, then AI art itself or AI generated stuff will become more, let's see, there'll be more sense of authorship about it, that people will value it more because it's not just, again, I'm trying to choose my words carefully, throwing a prompt into something like Mid-Journey, DALL-E, all the rest of them. So it'll be more accepted, I suppose, is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, so I've seen there's two sides to it, right? Yes, if I had a model, I trained myself on all my images and generated, anything else that was freely available, right, and in public domain, what have you, that would be that would eliminate a lot of the ethical problems that people have been having with AI systems. On the other flip side, a lot of what I've seen other artists do, and Rob Sheridan specifically, only I'm bringing him up again because he had a couple AI images go pretty viral, where he was actually contacted by the media, and
I
was
saw
like
that.
with the fashion show and the Met Gala and all that stuff and the horror stuff he threw into that. So that's not just one prompt, right? His workflow, he generates several pieces and then, edits them to combine to create the finished product. So that's how other artists are getting around this, where it's not, I'm not just typing something in and getting something out of it. I'm typing something in purposely, pulling what I want out of it, and then creating something new from a lot of other things that were combined, right? So that's how artists are running with it now as well. He's not the only one. I've seen a couple others that I follow on Instagram doing the same thing.
Yeah, Rob Sheridan's work is pretty astonishing. It really is. But he's kind of been at it for a long while.
Yes.
He's got the backlog of work that really, yeah. So does anybody else have a question? Just type it into the chat if you do. Just have to shout at my dogs. Marley, don't do that. Rosie. No. dog wrangling. They're like naughty little 2-year-olds stuck in 2-year-old land forever. It's kind of interesting. Is V's typing? Yeah. Is he? Is he gone? Oh, he's typing. We're waiting in suspense now for V to finish typing. The problem is Veteran's actually stuck in a bus station, so he can't use his microphone, which is what the smelly bus station was about.
So he's actually in a smelly bus station, and it's a
yeah.
That makes sense.
Okay, so he says, do you think it will fundamentally change your workflow for the future?
I mean, it's changed my workflow already. I mean, not that my workflow was steady for any length of time. I went from editing stuff on my phone to, having an analog setup, and now, combining the best of both worlds. It's really how I feel that peace should be generated, right? It's just another tool. It adds more to my workflow, but I don't just have one workflow or one process I go through to generate some of these works. So it already has changed it, but I don't think it will totally remove me capturing something on, use rescan on the CRT, right? That will always exist, and I'm also waiting for BPMC over here in the States has been teasing some digital circuit bent equipment to manipulate HDMI signals on the fly. There's supposed to be a Kickstarter or a Indiegogo or something starting up soon. So yeah, there's not fundamentally, because I don't have something that is fundamental. So that'll be another tool in my toolbox as well. Another canvas I can use to paint with, as the way I see it, right? It's another paintbrush or another sort of easels, or instead of using charcoal, it's oil or something, right? So it's just something else you have available to you to generate something.
I think that's probably a good way of looking at it, that it is just another tool. And maybe that, with all the hoo-ha around it, that's what people are kind of missing out on seeing, that it is a tool. And it's, I mean, for every Picasso, you have a Sunday painter who's just walking around doing cottages. It's the same tools, but what they do with those things is fundamentally different. And when did you say you started making glitch art again? Was it 2020?
2022. My first one I posted in, I think, March of 22 was the first one I posted.
I'm actually astonished. I mean, 2022, I mean, that's like a year ago. And you have this body of work already.
Yeah. I quite efficient in my...
Yeah.
I go down and I bang out a whole series and, intermix with the AI and stuff. It keeps me fulfilled.
Yeah, it's just like, what? I mean, why did you start making glitch art? Why?
It looked cool. It found, to me, it was a good niche, right? Looking at, I tried posting a lot of black and white photography on different social media, and it just, it was hard to compete with other, or, be seen through the crowd. Not just compete, but, to be seen through the crowd and all the other beautiful black and white artwork that was going on. Glitch art is something that, brings me back to my childhood and trying to watch the TV on the pay-per-view channel that you can get, but you can't see, so it's all like squiggly. You try to squint real hard, like, oh, I can kind of see a person there, right? Bringing back that aesthetic, it has a nostalgia feel to me, and now using this to create something new. Plus, I use my CRTs for retro gaming too, so I still have like my Super Nintendo and my N64, and my kids love playing those too. So, they get to see it how it was meant to be seen on the CRT. And it's something different. And my wife, she actually doesn't like the glitch art. I mean, she likes that I'm producing art and that I'm being recognized and having these opportunities, right? But she goes, your art makes my eyes itch. And I'm like, I want to make that as like my tagline, you know? Art that makes your eyes glitch, eyes
Yeah.
itch, right? She wears glasses. And she's like,
Yeah.
your art looks like when I don't have my glasses on. And I was like, yeah, right?
Well, that's the sort of thing they said about the Impressionists at the time. That it was a similar thing, you know, because of the way they painted it. It just looked as if
Yeah.
everything was out of focus, and oh, it's amazing. Yeah. Is anybody else
Yeah.
more Itchy Eye Studios? Yeah.
That's what I should have. Instead of the Sword of Reality, I should have been Itchy Eye Studios. That would have been.
Yeah. I think
really good.
going back to what you were saying about photography, I think glitch art is good, and that it's still, even after, I mean, it's been going for a good while, 20, 25 odd years at least, formally, it still allows that entrance into making work that's different and can be seen, whereas most people's eyes are trained to accept the ordinary photographic work or painting or, you know, or sculpture and accept that. But glitch art is this whole new kind of, well, it's old now, but this whole new way of seeing that kind of transcends the barrier between artist and maker. So you can pick up a few tools, you can pick up you know, a bit of analog gear and start messing with it and come up with results that people will accept and go, oh, right, okay, that's interesting. Because we can make it uniquely ours, whereas it's a lot harder with the way we've been trained to accept picture-perfect pictures as being real or being valid, or sculpture, like Greek sculptures that are beautifully carved. At the time, people would have been probably amazed by the quality and just the sheer artistry of them, but we become blasé because it's easy enough to do. So I think it's really fascinating. The whole DIY aspect of glitch art allows more and more people into making, and that's a good thing. So
Right. Well, just look at me. Right. I am the example. I got into this a year ago, and here I am presenting to everyone on, you know, an international forum, on an internationally recognized, you know, conference. Right. Like that's just a testament to being able to still enter it, you know, and make a difference and make a name for yourself here. So, you know, Ian and the group of FUBAR, thank you so much for having me here. We're quite a bit over time here, because I know we want to end at 11 my time.
Yeah.
So I appreciate the conversation and the banter. I think these questions were good. This was a really good presentation and conversation we had here, and I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you for presenting. I mean, that was wonderful, brilliant, really, really, really good. Oh, it's Dina. Oh, Dina's on there. Right. Okay. Yes. And a big clap.
Thank you. Thank you.
We do C's in the chat. So, right. I'm going to leave this open because I have to stop the recording and everything. So if you want to, whenever you're ready to leave, just... But yeah, that was really, really good. I really enjoyed that.
I'm going to head out. I got to go take care of the rest of my children and stuff. So again, thank you very much. Don't be strangers.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Hey. Bye, everybody. Okay, I'm just hanging around here for a few minutes.